Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I am Rabbi Scott Kramer. Welcome to our Shabbat service. I hope everyone had a good week. This is the time for us all to just come together in a spirit of fellowship, a spirit of Shabbat, of taking a breath and making the world stop for a brief day. The world will be fine without us for one day, I assure you. So welcome to our Shabbat service. We are praying out of Siddur Lev Shalem, which is downloadable as a PDF file from our synagogue's website. We begin our service, page 5, with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, kadosh baruch hu. Barchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech Malchei Amlachim Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malchei Amlachim Kadosh Baruch Hu. Page 10, we sing Yedid Nefesh. Yedid nefesh av harachaman mishoch avdach eretzonach yarutz avdach kemo hayal ishtachaveh mul hadarach Ki erav lo yedidutach minofet suf vechol tam adorna eziva olam nafshi cholat avatach ana elna Rafanala beharod la noam zivach az titrazek vetitrape vayetalach shivchat olam vatikemura chamecha V'chosna abeno havach ki ze kama nichsaf liro b'tiferet ozach anayli machmad libi chushana Ve'al titalam igalena ufros chaviv alai et sukat shelomach to'ir eretz mikvodach liro b'tiferet ozach Anayli machmad libi chushana ואל תתעלם, יגלנה ופרוס חביב עלי, את סוכת שלומך, תאיר ארץ מכבודך, נגילה ונשמחה בך, מה אהוב כי במועד, וחנני כי מעולם. יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי. We continue page 11 with Psalm 95. Lechu nerhanena, lechu nerhanena, lechu nerhanena ladonai, lechu nerhanena, lechu nerhanena, lechu nerhanena ladonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Nekad Mafana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Alechu Nerhanena, Lechu Nerhanena, Lechu Nerhanena Ladonai. Alechu Nerhanena, Lechu Nerhanena, Lechu Nerhanena Ladonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Nekad Mafana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. We continue in the English. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands formed the earth's deep. Mountain crests, too, are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted, like the people at Meribah, like the time at Massah. In the desert, when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are a people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way. So in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. Arba'im shana kut bedor va'omaram toeh levavhem v'hem lo yad drachai asher nishpati v'api im yavon heu menuchati. Page 13, Psalm 96. Shiru ladonai shir chadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz, shiru ladonai baruch shamo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru vagoyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nifliotav, ki gadol Adonai, o mehulal miyob. No rao al ko Elohim lai 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 kiko Elohe amim elilim v'Adonai shamayim asa had ve'adar lefanav oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho havul Adonai mishpachot amim havul Adonai kavod v'oz Havul Adonai ke'evod shemo seu mincha uvahu lechatzro dav lai 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 shtachavu Adonai be'adrat kodesh chilum mipanav kol haaretz imrum vagoyim Adonai malach avtikum tevel balatim od yadinam b'meisharim yismechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz ayiram mayamu melo yalo sadai v'chol asher bo lai 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 az yiranenu kol hatzayar lifnei Adonai kiva lishbot aretz yishbot tevel betzedek v'yamim be'emunato yalai lalai lai yalai lalai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai lai. We continue page 15 with Psalm 97. Adonai reigns, let the earth be glad, the many distant lands rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine. Righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about. Flashes of lightning illumine the land. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Worshippers of idols be shamed for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme bow before God. Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exult as you, Adonai, pass judgment. You, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. Light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. Or zaru la tzadik v'liyishvil ev simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hoduhu alazecher kadeshom. Page 17. Psalm 98. Mizmor shiru ladonai shir chadash ki niflot asa hoshia lo yemino uzaro wakocho adia Adonai Yeshuato leina goyim gilad tzidkato zachar chasta ve'emunato Levei Yisrael, Ra'u cholav se'aretz, et Yeshuat Eloheinu, Oriu l'Adonai kol haaretz, Bitzchum ve'ranenu v'zameru, Zamru l'Adonai bechinar, bechinar v'kol zimera, b'chatzot dron v'kol shofar, Oriu lifnei HaMelech Adonai, Yiram mayam muloho, Tevel v'yoshveva, Neharot yimcha uchaf, Yachad arim yiranenu, Lifnei Adonai kiva, Lishbot aretz, Yishbot tevel b'tzedek, Ve'yamim be'meisharim, Yalai lalai lalai lalai, Yalai lalai lalai, Yalai lalai lalai lalai, Yalai lalai lalai lalai, Yalai lalai Yalai lalai lalai, Yalai lalai lalai, Yalai lalai. We continue on page 19 with Psalm 99. Adonai reigns, the nations tremble, the one enthroned amidst the cherubim makes the world quake. Adonai is great in Zion above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, all-inspiring, Holy One. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forge the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Exalt Adonai, our God, bow down before God, the Holy One. Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel among those who called upon the divine name. Called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. You answered them, Adonai, our God. You were a forgiving God to them, even as you punish them for their transgressions. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai our God is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kadosho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, if you are able, page 21, Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu ladonai b'nei Elim, havu ladonai kavod vos, havu ladonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu ladonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim Adonai omayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et alzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Levanon v'sirion kemo ven remim, Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholeo ayalo, vayechasot yaharot, uveichalo kulo merkavod. Adonai lamabul yashav, yeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz liamo yitem, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. You may be seated. We continue, page 23. Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmi'anu elam yuchad. Adonai echad u'shamo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'liti l'alecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekora beracha merosh mikedem nesucha Sov Maseh b'machshvat chila lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela mikdash melech ir melucha kumitzi mitocha hafecha ravlach shevet b'yemek habacha v'hu yachamohu alaychem lalecha dodi lekrat Kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela hitnari me'afar kumi livshei vigdei tifartecha mi hayad ben Yishai beit halachmi karva el nafshi ge'ala lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela hitoreri Kiva ore kumi ori shir daberi kivod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela lo tevoshi V'lo tikami matish tochachi umate mi bach yechasu ani ayami venimnata yiralti la lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela v'hayulam shisa Shahu esayich v'rachakuko mivalayich yasis alayich Elohayich kimchas chatan al kala lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela yamin usmo tifro tiviet Adonai taritzi ayadish Ben barzi v'nismecha v'nagila lecha dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nikabila. We rise as we face towards the west to greet the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzala toch emunei am segulam boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabila. You may be seated. We continue with Psalm 92, page 27. A psalm, the song of the day of Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name, Most High, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sounds of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Tzadik tamar yifrach ki erez balvanon Yizke shetulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim Yehu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabo. Page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you are enthroned, you are eternal. The rivers rise up, Adonai, the rivers raise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves. Above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the ocean, Adonai stands supreme in the heavens. In your house, holiness and beautiful in its holiness. Your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. Again, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week and is ready for a restful Shabbat. Majestic beauty or ridiculously funny? Status or mockery? Cloaked or bare? Those are only some of the answers or contrast to the question, do clothes make the person? The bulk of this week's Torah portion, Tetzaveh, talks about the priest's garments. The regular priest is dressed in stately but simple clothes, but the high priest is absolutely regal, having every royal color and gem invested in his vestments. There is gold, blue, purple, and crimson. The birthstone gems are arranged in the breastplate: carnelian, chrysolite, emerald, turquoise, sapphire, amethyst, jacinth, agate, crystal, beryl, lapis lazuli, and jasper. Must have been something to behold. The high priest must change clothes 5 times on the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur. And the last change is the stateliest, which he must wear before he enters the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, where the Aron Kodesh, the Holy Ark, is kept hidden for this one moment of the year, to be beheld by only one person so chosen for this holy mission. But the question remains, do these clothes make the person? In the case of the high priest, the answer has to be yes and no. The high priest must be from the lineage of Aaron, the brother of Moses, and he must have been chosen for this highest of positions from among his fellow priests. He must be pure and married and possess the qualities of someone positioned for such an important office. But he cannot perform his duties on the holiest of days, Yom Kippur, without this garb. Without these clothes, he is simply a regular priest. They are both needed, the person and the clothes. Dressing up in silly costumes is not one of the obligations of Purim, but yet it seems to be a big part of the holiday. Excuse me. Pardon me. So I want to contrast that with the holiday that starts Monday night, Purim. There are 4 mitzvot that one can observe for the holiday of Purim. I asked the children I teach this question, and each of them assumed that dressing up for the holiday in silly costumes was one of them. They are disappointed when I told them it was not. The 4 mitzvot, or holy obligations of Purim, are hearing the reading of the Megillat Esther, participating in a Su'udah, a feast celebrating the holiday, Matanot Levionim, giving of tzedakah to the poor, and Mishloach Manot, giving parcels of food to at least 2 friends. Dressing up in silly costumes is not one of the obligations of Purim, but yet it seems to be a big part of the holiday. Why? And why is this holiday positioned next to the Shabbat, where we read about the priest's garments? First question first. Apparently, the dressing up in costumes is not a new fad. A law accepting a Torah prohibition is explicitly mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, written in the 17th century. In Orach Chaim it says, concerning the custom to wear costumes, partsufim, or false faces, on Purim, and for men to dress in women's clothing, there is no prohibition of this conduct. Their intent is merely for the sake of rejoicing. Yeah, you heard that right. Almost sounds like it is a mitzvah to violate another mitzvah. But the intent is clear. The holiday of Purim, like that of Hanukkah, takes on traditions and practices that celebrates and advertises the miracle of that holiday. How does dressing up in costumes celebrate that day? Maybe because Purim is full of contrasts, of people masking as someone who they are not. Esther, the heroine of the story, hides her true self, her Jewish identity. She spends 12 months in preparation for her meeting with Achashverosh, perfumed and preserved in an array of sweet-smelling aromas, so that her wholesome and pure body is masked over with all sorts of external fragrances. Mordecai told the courtiers that he was Jewish as the reason for his not bowing down to Haman. Why did he need to tell them this? If he had been wearing a tallis or a tefillin or a kippah, he would not have had to tell them that he was a Jew. So Mordecai and Esther were masquerading as Persians. So do we on Purim pretend to be someone we are not, even being permitted to dress in clothes of the opposite gender. So that brings us to the second question: why position this holiday near the one about the necessity of the priest dressing a certain specific way and not pretending to be someone different? Purim is a holiday that dispels appearances for the sake of status. On Yom Kippur, we dress in our finest, usually tending towards white like a kittel, to show that our sins are as white as snow. We act as we are and bear all to God, our judge. On Purim, we pretend to be someone we are not, the opposite of Yom Kippur. But we laugh at this exterior garb, and it is obvious to everyone around us that we are not the person we are dressed as. We are all created in the image of God, no matter what exterior we put on. We cannot hide the godliness in each and every one of us, no matter how hard we go to mask that part of us out of our lives. So why go through life with all of those masks? Would it not be easier and healthier to just be who we are, or who God made us to be? We spend our whole lives building up a facade and a mystique to mold ourselves into something different than God intended. Some of us go into jobs and careers that were never meant to be, only to discover the proper path almost when it was too late. Too late for those who choose to ignore the proper path, just in time for those that recognize it and are not afraid of the work necessary to adjust our lives. So be who you are, and not who you think you want to be, but never can. Shabbat Shalom. We will continue our service with Ma'ariv, page 39a. Please rise if you are able for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai Elohim melech olam asher b'dvar ma'ariv aravim b'chachma padech she'arim. U'mahavir yom ha'mevi layla mavdil ben yom u'vein layla Adonai tzavahut shemo el chai v'kayim tamin yimloch aleinu lam v'ohed baruch et Adonai ha'mariv aravim. Page 40. Avat olam beit Yisrael amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachvenu v'kumenu nesiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha uva mitzvotecha leolam voed ki chem chayenu v'orech yameinu uva emenege יומם ולילה. ויעבדך תשים ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך וקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם נא מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, והיה עם שמות. תשמעו אל מצוותיי. ידיכם והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם, ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם, ונתנו על ציצית תקנה פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God and there is none other. And we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hands of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom and led them through divided waters of the Sea of Reeds. As their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. U'malchuto b'rotzun kiboleah Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamaru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedor ba'kodesh Nora tehilot o seifele malchutecha ra'u v'necha bo kiyam lifnei Moshe zeli anu v'yameru Adonai imloch le'olam voed v'nehemar kivod Adonai et Yaakov u'galod mit chazak mimenu baruch et Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Page 45. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom amen. Ushmotzeitenu vein l'chaim u'shomiyata v'yad olam u'fohosalenu sukat shlomecha baruch et Adonai aboret sukat shalom halenu v'yal kol amo Yisrael Ve'al Yerushalayim. We rise, page 46. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Uvayom Shvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. We rise for the Friday night silent Amidah, pages 47 through 52. And we continue on page 56 as the ark is open. Please rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gdula liyotzeh bereshit shalo asana kagoyeh haratzot v'lo samanu kamishmachot hadama shalo sam chelkenu kahim v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim shtachavim umodim לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהונותי שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשה ויקרב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו, בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, הם נדמוקנו אבן זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשיבות 1001, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד על כן. נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו ליראה בדברך. כגדו בתורתך אדוני מלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. Excuse me. This week we will observe yard sites for Moses Cohn, Yetta Goldblatt Cook, Nicholas Gross, Rachel Jaffe, Nat Lang, Benjamin Margolis, Marion Shinbaum, Consuela Elizondo, Bella Kraselsky, Lillian Perlman, Sarah Varen Siegel, Bernice Shugart, Jaime Byrne, Ida Russo, Samuel Blitz, David Kulik, Meyer Kassover, Harold Lichtenstein, Anna Lee Litvak, Lillian Rubenstein, Sarah Abramson, Dr. Isaac E. Capilouto, Anna Golem, Anna Levy, Eva Owen, Philip Rubenstein, Victoria Toronto, and Shalom Travis. With all of the yard site notices that we send out, I ask anyone who is observing a yard site in any particular week, if you would write a couple paragraphs on who you are observing a yard site, who you are memorializing. This week, this one comes from Irene Kramer. Connie Elizondo was my mother, the one who taught me how to care. She was always tending to her household and her 4 daughters. As her family grew with sons-in-laws and grandchildren, she continued to cook and bake and have backyard barbecues for the family who were left in the area. She made certain that everything was in its place, to the point where she would track down whoever had left something out of place. She would then inform that person of the proper place for whatever was amiss, and expected that person to take care of the problem immediately. Unfortunately, she was struck down with a disease that has been called the long goodbye, Alzheimer's. I had the honor of taking care of her in my home for the last 4 years of her life. It gave me the opportunity to give back to her what she had given to me. I am glad that over the last year, I am finally able to remember her at her best, as well as when she was so ill. Her memory can now be for a blessing. Amen to that. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise and join me on page 58 for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba, v'yomad yivrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, Bagalav Izman Karivi Maru Amen, Yesh Me Rabba Mevarach Le'elam Mulmel Maya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitchomam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal, Shmeid Kudisha Barichu, Le'elam Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbachata V'nechamata, Da'amiran V'yoma V'maru Amen, Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'maru, Amen. Ose Shalom, B'mramav, Uyase Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'maru, Amen. You may be seated. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to everyone. Glad you joined me this evening. We seem to have a very healthy online community tonight. Tomorrow morning services will continue at 9:30 a.m. Tomorrow evening, the Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah will meet via Zoom as we conclude the celebration of Shabbat. As we do every week, we invite all of you to join us. Again, if you would like to come and you do not have the link, please email me, and I will be more than happy to send you that link before the service tomorrow at 7. The holiday of Purim is this coming Monday night, where we will celebrate with the reading of the Scroll of Esther, the Megillat Esther. We will have a wonderful feast, dinner after the service, and we will be joined this Monday night with 20 students from the University of Pennsylvania. Thanks to Tanya Hess for arranging that. And we're really looking forward to a sanctuary full of people as we celebrate the holiday of Purim. And with that, I will wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and we will conclude our service, page 211, with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Ko Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefso Ko Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam V'yacharei Kichlot Tako Livado Yimloch Nara Adon Olam V'waya V'wove V'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Ko Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefso Ko Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam V'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Laham Shelo Lach Bira Adon Olam Beli Reshit Beli Tachlit V'lo Oz V'ham Misra Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Ko Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefso Ko Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam V'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzorchev Li B'yetz Hara Adon Olam V'hu Nisi Umanosli Minat Kosi B'yom Mikra Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Ko Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefso Ko Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam V'yado Afkid Ruchi B'yet Ishan V'yayra Adon Olam V'yimaruchi Geviyati Adon Oli V'lo Ira Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Ko Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefso Ko Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam. Someone asked if Purim was being live streamed. It is. Apparently we have one slight issue with Facebook Live, but it will be on our website and will be on YouTube Live. So with that, Shabbat Shalom.